Hello everyone, my name is Lenny from Code with Lenny Len, and in this second video tutorial we are going to actually start building Pong. But before we do that, I'd like to show you a quick summary of parts of a Pygame game. So I'll show you parts of a game that's built by Pygame, and I'll show you how we're going to tackle this. So let's get started. So here we have the parts of a game. We have the initialization, and this means the start of the game variables like the player score, something like that. We have the colors like the background color, maybe the paddle colors, the ball color. They can be any range of colors that you'll pick from. We have the screen, and the screen is just the surface at which the game will be played from. I'll show you how you're going to make all this stuff. And in the second part of a game, we have the initialization, and the second part, which is the game loop. So the game loop has two parts, the event loop and the game logic. So what the event loop does is that it checks for events. What are events? So events are things like keyboard presses, mouse movements, mouse presses, such kind of stuff. Just the user interaction between the user and the game. So if you press maybe the up arrow, you expect the paddle to go up and down or something like that. So that pressing of the keys or moving of your mouse, that's an event, and all these are captured in the event loop. Then we have the game logic. The game logic is things like if the player hits the ball, then the ball should bounce back, something like that. Actually, the game logic is usually a bunch of if statements. They are the conditions of your game. Maybe if the score reaches 5, declare the winner or something. If the player shoots maybe the other player, he should die or the health should decrease. So the game logic is actually built on real world things like movements, shots, killing, all kinds of logic. It's just some if loops running around, checking everything, whether he does this or that, and they just state the conditions of your game. In the game loop, we have other important stuff like drawing to screen. So if you're going to draw anything in the screen, like let's say a rectangle, a circle or something, maybe even a picture, of which I'll show you, we are going to draw everything in the game loop, not necessarily in the event loop or game logic, but I'll show you how we are going to do that. And also, as I've said, logics are if conditions. We have things like score count, collisions. All these are done by the game logic. And especially when it gets to collisions, it's a very tricky part, but I'll show you how we are going to maneuver around that. So we have updating the screen. And actually, this is a very interesting part of this tutorial. I'll actually tell you how computer graphics work. So this is how motion, should I say motion pictures or videos or games actually. So in games, when you see maybe a player moving, it's usually not a video of someone moving. It's just a bunch of many still pictures but being updated, like flipping like page in a book. So it's usually a bunch of many still pictures that are being flipped over very quickly, so that creates the illusion of movement. And that's actually a very neat trick that's done by computers. Most of you don't know that, but if you do, well, congratulations, you're going to have an easy time in a Pygame. So that's what we're going to do, updating the screen. Maybe your player moves from one place to another. It's supposed to take all these different still pictures and run them, flip them very quickly and create the illusion of movement. This is a very important part of Pygame, and without updating the screen, nothing will work. You just have a picture, a game that's a picture. You cannot do anything to it, and that's quite boring. So once you get these parts of a game and get them to your memory and understand the parts of a game, you can take a screenshot or something to remember this. But if you're okay with it, let's get started. So you'll go to Python shell, the idle that I just showed you about in the last video tutorial, and press Ctrl N in Windows, or File, New. Just Ctrl N as a shortcut. I'm using Windows 7, so Windows users, this might be easy for you. I don't know about Linux and Mac OS users. But as we get started, the first thing we should do obviously is import the Pygame library. So I'll import Pygame, and the next thing that you're going to do, importing it is like taking a toolbox. I import a toolbox maybe from the USA to Africa. Once I have the toolbox, I have to open it so that I can use it to make the things that I want. So to open this Pygame toolbox, you're just going to do pygame.init, and init basically means initialize. You can write all these comments down if you want. They're very good for maybe revision and passing through. So pygame.init will initialize, and this prepares everything that you're going to need, be it sound, graphics, maybe the GL extensions or something. So without this pygame.init, we cannot access all the tools that we have from Pygame. So remember, pygame.init should always follow. So we have import Pygame, then pygame.init. Those should always be your first lines. Maybe you're going to import other modules like maybe random, math, numpy, I don't know, any of those modules. But when you import Pygame, in order to use it, you're going to need pygame.init. And for this tutorial, I'm not planning to start right off by making a game, so we can start with writing some comments, and this part will be the initializing. So what this means is that we're going to define all our colors here, all our game variables. Just as I had showed you, you're going to have the colors, game variables, the screen, and everything. So the start of the game, that started when we just said import Pygame and pygame.init. So we already tackled that, so let's go to the screen. Without the screen, we cannot display anything. We cannot put our pictures or our drawings. We cannot do anything without a screen. So let's get that done. So we'll open it, and you're going to create our screen. So we're going to say screen. You just assign this to a variable name. So screen is equals to get the screen, just say Pygame. Oh, sorry about that. Actually, most of the bugs developed by programmers are usually from things like that, typos. So be very careful. So to get the screen, just say pygame.display.set_mode. And what this does is that it's going to set the screen size, and you're going to set it as a tuple. So we're just going to put another bracket inside, and as you can see, you're already being told by Python that the resolution we should get from here, you can just write resolution is equals to something something, but we don't need it. So we're going to put, my screen is basically small, so I'll start with something small, like maybe 600 pixels wide by 500 pixels high. So you should always remember the order of precedence when you come to things like pixel count, pixel size, everything. We always start with X, then Y, and what this means is that across, that is X is horizontal, Y is vertical. X going across the screen, Y going from top to bottom of the screen. So always remember that. So this 600 pixels wide by 500 pixels high. And once we have our screen, we can go down now to colors, and for the colors, they are also in something called RGB values. So maybe some of you know about this, some of you don't, but in the next tutorial we're going to talk more about colors. But for now, you should remember that they are in RGB values, and I'll show you a summary of some RGB things that I have learned and I know, and some few primary and secondary colors that we can use in our game, and we can continue building our game from there. So as always, thanks for watching.